Yes, if you'll notice, there's a little chihuahua here with me. I am taking care of my sister's baby cakes, and she likes to sit with me wherever I go. So, welcome to Moon Magic. This is the Scorpio new moon that's happening on October 27th into the 28th that night. And I realized that this is the 2-year anniversary of Moon Magic because I began this series with the new moon in Scorpio in 2017. And it came over me in a rush of inspiration where I thought this would be a really fun space to explore. And the new moon in Scorpio is always an interesting one. The moon isn't completely comfortable in Scorpio. Moon, even though these two things, right, Scorpio energy and moon energy are so emotively connected and so intuitive and so innately connected to deeper meaning, the two have an interesting dialogue. They always take us to an investigative point. And of course, this new moon, it's really simple. It's really clear. This isn't a moon with like a ton of aspecting. There's one major aspect happening. One major aspect. So the new moon's going direct at 8:38 p.m. Pacific time, 11:38 Eastern time on the 27th, so that night, that evening. And it is perfectly opposing Uranus in Taurus. So we have the sun and moon at 4 degrees of Scorpio, and we have Uranus at 4 degrees of Taurus. Now, Uranus has been kind of a hot topic the last year or so because it's been shifting from Aries into Taurus, and we've been getting used to this long-range transit with Uranus and Taurus, and it's a really important placement right now in our collective evolution because Taurus is this sign of earthiness, right, of groundedness, of, fertility and crops and rebirth and the mother archetype in many ways. And Uranus is that sign of revolution, of electricity, of voltage, of surprise. And we're doing a ton of healing. We're starting to connecting in with our relationship to the physical, to the slowing down and the nurturing of the little details, right? And so that transit really got into gear this year around March, where we had Uranus fully transition into Taurus. And Uranus has recently been doing some really interesting oppositions because we are in Scorpio season. We are moving towards Scorpio season. I have this little chihuahua head. It's a little distracting, isn't it? But she's so cute. In Scorpio season, we're going to continue to have these little oppositions, these little conversations with Taurus. And the moon here, new moon, fresh beginning, fresh investigation, right? In Scorpio, one of the strong suits of scorpionic energy is the investigation, is the deep diving, the desire to know more, the desire to understand, the desire to analyze and get in there. And both Scorpio and Taurus are fixed signs, right? So when we have this energy ramping up and these fixed signs, we're really looking at what we want to grow over time. This isn't about like the transition points. This isn't about the initiation necessarily, though new moons are. It's also about what we want to grow gently over time with consistency. And the new moon in Scorpio often has that energy to it. What do you want to pull out of yourself here and share and extend out to the rest of the world? So that new moon with the sun and the moon conjunct, that dark night right in Scorpio, very early on in Scorpio season, we're just getting our sea legs in Scorpio energy, right? In the season of transformation, change, shift, deep investigation, meaning, and deep connection. A new moon in this sign is always going to have us connecting in with what we really mean, what's truly authentically ours, what's truly authentically our soul speaking, not what sounds good on the surface, Not what looks good and cute and fun and flashy on the surface, but what really speaks to our soul. That is what Scorpio is all about. Yes, you know, archetypally you can look at Scorpio and you can see that it's about taboo subjects like sex and other people's money and taxes and, you know, those topics that you're not supposed to bring up at the dinner table, right? That's like one of Scorpio's messages here, but Scorpio is so much more than that. I mean, why don't we want to talk about those things at the dinner table? Because they're authentic, because they're real, and part of the things that's going on with our cultural shifts that are happening now is that things that the traditional structure felt were inappropriate to ever look at, to ever investigate, are now getting reassessed, and we realize that those are the things that actually make relationships worthwhile. Those are the things that actually make connection happen. It's not the surface stuff, right? So this moon really ties into us as a collective with that Uranus opposition, into our collective journey into realizing that playing a role, looking good on the surface, working your 40-hour week and calling it a day and playing your role in those specific plugins aren't working anymore, and we're having to readjust and dive deep, right? So this moon, even though, yes, individually you will be experiencing this is a collective shift as well. This is one of those ones that's plugging into our new frequency as a group. As a planet, as a little solar system here, we are doing some really important shifting. Now, the message that came through for me with this really crisp, clear transit with this moon opposing Uranus is that we need a new definition of revolution at times. You know, we like to think of revolution as these big overhauls, right? And yes, of course they are. It's the big overhauls of the system, and you can look back at a 3 or 4 year period in history and see how those were revolutionary years in a culture, right? But if we're going to talk about the new moon as a part of your personal journey, as the way you may feel it and feel the energy for the few days around this leading up to Halloween, this is a time to check in with the small things in your process, right? Revolution often begins with a contentedness with right now, which I know it sounds so basic and so uninteresting, right? We've all heard it. You know, you have to be at peace with the now. You have to be at peace with what you have to work with. You know, what tools do you have to work with today, right? Before you can start working with them even. But that's the revolution. We are hitting this point collectively and in our experience of the earth experience where consumerism, this idea that things have to keep growing in order to have value, they have to keep growing in order for things to be okay, is crumbling, right? Consuming is crumbling, and this moon is tying into this theme big time. You know, we can keep buying things, we can keep purchasing things, we can keep ingesting things, and it won't make us feel any more of that scorpionic depth of connection or that Taurus sense of love and groundedness if we consume, right? So this moon is also speaking to, it's time to put down all of that idea of you have to consume these things externally in order to be okay in your process. And the revolution is in the details. It's in the small moments of release. It's in the small moments of allowance. It is in the small moments of making choices that work for us. And, you know, showing up, being vulnerable, just choosing maybe to, you know, for the few days around this, just enjoy going for long walks in the park or cooking a really slow cooked meal or reading a book and not looking for all those extravagant external things are going to be really appealing during this moon. Now, this is a moon that's also going to bring up a desire for vulnerability. Now, some people interpret this moon as tough in relationships because Uranus and Taurus, the desire for freedom opposing the moon, the desire for love, control, groundedness can seem like a really at odds conversation, right? But I think we also need to redefine our sense of freedom. So we're redefining revolution to realize that we are revolutionary when we're not consuming all the time. We're not buying into the patriarchy's idea of consumption and nonstop economic growth as the end-all be-all goal, right? We're overturning that when we choose to be happy in this moment, when we choose to just be okay with what we have, what we're working with today, right? That is overturning the system. Now, what is our definition of freedom? With these lockdown systems of consume, consume, grow, grow, I think our definitions of freedom are also changing. You know, freedom is about the freedom to be who you are. Be expressive, emotively expressive, feel safe, feel held. That is a source of freedom. And so for me, this opposition is highlighting that desire for the type of freedom that comes from safety of emotional expression, safety of diving deep without there being like some secretive pulling out of the rug. And that is true freedom in relationship. So these are all some of the reworkings that may be happening and coming up with your personal journey during this moon that you may be finding, you know, what you thought as maybe heavy or burdensome or repressive or limiting is getting reworked. And it's really subtle messaging here, right? This is because your logical mind and everything you've been taught in school and watching TV or ads is that you are limited and that the only way you're going to get where you want to be is if you purchase or if you become something else, if you can modify yourself. A couple days from now, it'll be the right time for you to be loved. A couple days from now will be the right time for you to feel okay about where you are today. I mean, I'm not asking for you to be euphoric. You know, oh my gosh, this is so amazing. You know, of course we want to change. Of course we want to see new things. Of course we want to daydream. But what freedom it is to be able to sit, you know, just on your couch at the end of the day or in the park or even at your desk at work, wherever you may be, and feel like I don't have to morph myself in order for things to be okay. I can just be here. Think about the release of judgment there. Think about the release of the oppression. Think about how those shackles of societal expectations immediately come off. And you are turning everything over. So this is what this new moon is really about. Yes, relationships will come up in this. Yes, there will be vulnerability. Yes, there will be a desire to shake things up, to try new things, to go to very authentic, real places. And as I said that, I got full body shivers. This is a really powerful time for all of that. I'm going to pull 3 cards. Page of Cups, Emperor, and the World. New beginnings, right? All 3 of these are initiators. We're stepping into new worlds. I mean, I know we hear that a lot, right? If you're in this community and in this world that I speak in, and there's a lot of us doing this type of healing work and communicative, connective work, you hear a lot about the new earth and the new grid and the new system and 5D reality and all of these things, right? All these concepts, different ways of describing things. And I mean, these cards are definitely representative of that. But honestly, you know, we can take it right back down to really simple, basic things. You can have whatever viewpoint you want on, you know, existence and souls and all of that. But we can reclaim our value in relationships, in our own lives, in our creative process, as soon as we decide that we don't need to be modified, we don't need to consume anything extra in order to magically be something else, right? And that's what these cards are speaking to. These are leadership cards. These are cards of quality of leading with soul and leading with vision and looking forward. Now, I just was saying, you know, it's not about modifying your experience today so that, you know, oh, 3 days from now I'll be ready. It's about looking forward in the sense of being here now with what you have now. Your forward motion is going to be so meaningful. Page of Cups is the news bringer, right? The emotive news bringer of new beginnings. And the Page of Cups is about opening our hearts to the possibilities. But we can only do that when we know that those possibilities come to meet us when we are here present, right? And the Emperor and the World are initiators. We have the fire initiate of the Father energy, and we have the final card of the Major Arcana, the World. The Emperor is a creator, right? He's associated with Mars, who is doing some interesting things with Neptune. Actually, we're not going to get into that today during this full moon, or this new moon. But the Emperor is the initiator, the creator, right? He stands in his power. He owns his space. Now, that doesn't necessarily mean he has to conquer everything all the time, right? Emperor in his best space is not a conqueror, but a presence in the process. And the World is a graduation, right? We're leaving behind an old grid work, an old understanding of self-value, an old understanding of what work meant, what love meant, what relationship meant, what identity meant. There are limitations for what is valued in the old paradigms of the 20th century. We're still kind of working through the legacy of the 20th century. Even if you were born in 2000 and you're hanging out here today with me, your parents were born in the 20th century. And you have a legacy that you are helping close out. We're all helping close out, but we have to shift that. And that's what this moon is really about. So it's a very subtle moon. It's gentle. I think this is a really gentle moon because it's not going to demand you make the changes. You have to make the changes. It's going to subtly suggest that this is a great energy to redefine yourself, your journey, your mission, your value, what you do value, how that's working, if it's working for you. It's going to ask you to do all of that. And this is kind of a gelatinous time where, your sense of identity, your sense of like who I am, who I've been, who I'm supposed to be over there is getting remolded. And you may be finding this Scorpio season in general. And even in Libra season, really this started in October, that you may be finding, where you were so certain maybe in March or April or before now of where you were going and who you're supposed to be. This kind of time right now is taking it back a notch and saying, okay, that's one possibility, but here's a whole bunch of other ways that process could take place. So you may be finding that you're less certain of how you're supposed to get your work done, what tools you're supposed to be using. Your mission statement in life may be getting a rework during this time. And that can involve, what your relationships look like, what your work looks like, where you're living, and what your timeline's looking like. And you may be finding this new moon, because new moons are so great for intention setting. They're so great for sitting with the quiet, which seems so scary initially, but is so fertile. It's the most fertile ground. Speaking of Emperor energy, fertile energy is the new moon. In the quiet, in the dark, in the unknown, it's where we get most of our answers. You may be finding that you're getting huge hits of information about how you want to form that path moving forward, and that it's exciting, it's really good, but it is different than maybe you envisioned it being for yourself prior to now. So simple moon, like I said, it's like we have this opposition going on. It is powerful. It is asking us to tap into our enoughness, into the enoughness of the present moment. And I know a lot of you are struggling, either with illness or heartache or lack, quite literally, like resources are lacking, and we are in a society where many of us, especially if you're in America, we don't have a social system to help people out all the time. And throughout the world, there's different things going on there with lack, right? And I know that, and my heart goes out to anybody who's really struggling. But I hope this moon brings a bit of that. It's okay. You are okay where you are, even if you are sick or something isn't working the way you want it to work. You, your soul, you as your inherent being, you are enough. You are okay. Because this stuff is happening doesn't make you less than, and it's okay. And I hope there's a soothing balm in that. Yes, Scorpio season's intense. Yes, it's going to ask us real questions. Scorpio energy, I would say that is the way that I would think of Scorpio energy. Asking real questions. And that's why sometimes it can be intimidating. If we are feeling like we're a little off our game or like we're not quite living what we know is true for us, Scorpio season, the sun moving into Scorpio, and then this new moon in Scorpio, and just the energy moving through Scorpio, is going to be like, hey, how's it working for you? And it's going to be like, oh gosh, you had to ask me now. I wasn't ready to answer that question today. But of course, that's what Scorpio is all about. So it's going to take us right there. And it's just going to be like, it doesn't have to be complicated. Let's just go straight to the point. And that's what I love about Scorpio energy. I personally love this time of year and Scorpio energy in general. I have a lot of placements in my 8th house. I'm a Leo, but my sun is 8th house. So I kind of roll with the darkness, with the seeking, with the searching, with the quiet, Fixed sign power of water and emotiveness is so beautiful. I hope you have an amazing new moon. Checking in with this opposition. Like I said, it's a little different of a voice than maybe you're used to hearing because it's going to be tapping into a different way of doing things, almost a little bit extraterrestrial, and not so much about how you might recognize moon energy in other phases, other facets. It's got a real, almost detached quality to it where it's like, let's just really look at this. And it can take you to some really interesting places. So I hope you have a beautiful new moon. You, of course, can come hang out with me on Patreon. I'm going to have a couple of really good story times about personal experiences I have had with throughout my life with different kind of spooky, what would be considered spooky experiences that I've had. I'm going to be talking a little bit about that, my personal journey with that, and hoping that you guys will share some of your stories as well in the comments. So if you're interested in joining the Patreon, we're doing those weekly astro write-ups. I'm doing talks about any big transits that are going on that I think are meaningful. There's a lot of extras and a great way to connect with me. I'm going to try and spend a lot more time over there talking with you guys, working through the comments, hanging out. So if that is something that you're interested in and you want more quality time with me, I would love to see you over there. I'll leave the link below. Of course, I always wear PinkLune. She's my girl. This is citrine and I'm obsessed with it. And you can also find me, I think I have just a few sessions left for 2019, maybe like 3 or 4 sessions left for private readings before I will be opening up my calendar in 2020, but I haven't done that yet. So if you're looking to get a reading before the end of the year, I know there's a few Sages out there who probably would love a reading near the end of November. I would definitely recommend hopping over to my website, which I will also leave. And you can find me on Instagram at SarahVerba. I would love to see you there. I'm sending you guys so much love. Ride with it, flow with it. Let yourself be surprised by who you are and how enough you are and how much that will feel clear and crisp to you. I love you so much. I will see you for the next full moon. And it's going to be a good one. The Taurus full moon. Always full of nurturing goodness. I love you. I will. And I was about to say goodbye, but then I remembered too, I'm about to start on those monthly readings. So you know those will be out very soon. I'm sending you all my love. Mwah.